I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue as Jessica paraded around the kitchen like she owned the world. She wore an expensive silk blouse, perfectly tailored slacks, and the diamond necklace I had given her on our anniversary, back when I believed our love was unbreakable. Now, that very necklace felt like an insult, a reminder of the woman she had become. She tapped away at her phone, chuckling to herself, her freshly manicured nails clicking against the screen. "You know, at least one of us is doing something productive," she mused, not even looking at me. "I just can't imagine being a grown man and doing nothing all day." I clenched my jaw but kept my expression blank. Her words were meant to sting, to provoke a reaction. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "Must be nice," she continued, her voice dripping with mock pity. "Waking up with no responsibilities, no pressure, no expectations. Just existing." She finally looked up, a smirk pulling at the corner of her lips. "I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You were never that ambitious." That was rich coming from someone who had no idea what real power looked like. Jessica thought she held all the cards now, believed herself to be the sole provider. She had no clue that my so-called unemployment was a carefully constructed lie, one I had let her believe just to see what she would do. She had failed the test spectacularly. I had built my empire from the ground up, sacrificed everything to create something lasting. I had started as a small-time entrepreneur, taking calculated risks that paid off, eventually leading to the acquisition of the very company she now worked for. I had deliberately stepped back from the day-to-day operations, trusting my board and executives to run things while I focused on bigger ventures. Jessica hadn't put the pieces together. She had no idea that the man she was mocking was the same one who signed her paychecks. "Are you even listening?" she huffed, crossing her arms. I met her gaze, calm and unreadable. "Of course." Her eyes narrowed. "Then say something. Defend yourself." I leaned back in my chair, tilting my head slightly. "You seem to be enjoying yourself enough for the both of us." Her smirk widened. "Oh, I am." She sauntered closer, resting a manicured hand on the back of my chair. "But honestly, it's getting a little embarrassing. People are starting to talk. My husband, the unemployed freeloader." She let out a dramatic sigh, shaking her head. "I mean, don't you have any pride?" I studied her, the woman I had once adored, and felt nothing but cold amusement. This was no longer about a bruised ego or petty insults. It was about exposing her for who she truly was. She had underestimated me. I glanced at the clock. "Aren't you going to be late?" Jessica scoffed. "I'm the best employee they have. They wouldn't dare fire me." She flicked her hair over her shoulder and grabbed her purse. "Unlike some people, I have a career to maintain." I let her leave, watching as she strutted out the door with the confidence of someone who believed she was untouchable. She had no idea what was coming. That night, Jessica came home later than usual, her perfume a mix of something floral and expensive, layered beneath an unfamiliar musk that didn't belong to me. She barely spared me a glance as she tossed her designer handbag onto the counter, her phone clutched tightly in her manicured hand. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize, followed by a message that she quickly swiped away. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Instead, I watched her, taking in every little detail, the way she avoided my gaze, the way her lips twitched as if fighting the urge to smirk, the way her blouse had been buttoned hastily, the top few undone. Jessica poured herself a glass of wine, swirling the deep red liquid before taking a slow sip. "Long day," she muttered, as if she owed me that much. I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah." She nodded, not looking up. "Meetings. Reports. Dealing with people who don't understand deadlines." Her tone carried the same exasperation she always used when pretending to be overwhelmed by work. I smirked. "Must be tough." Jessica's gaze flickered toward me, searching for sarcasm. When she found none, she relaxed. "Yeah, well, not everyone has the luxury of lounging around all day." She was still playing that game, still trying to paint herself as the responsible one, the provider. I let her. The next morning, while Jessica was in the shower, I unlocked her phone. She had become careless, no longer bothering to hide her passcode. Her messages were exactly what I expected. Flirtations with someone named Andrew, vague excuses about why she couldn't stay longer last night, promises of another business meeting soon. My grip tightened on the device. Not because of heartbreak. No, that part of me had died weeks ago. This was anger, pure and controlled, simmering beneath the surface. I exited the messages and placed her phone back where I found it. No confrontation. No accusations. I had a much better plan. The first step was making sure my board was on the same page. I called for an urgent meeting, gathering my most trusted executives. As I sat at the head of the long conference table, I watched their faces shift from curiosity to quiet understanding as I laid everything out before them. Jessica and her friends, Melissa, Sophie, and Claire, had built themselves a little empire within the company, a clique that operated more on manipulation than actual work. They took extended breaks, charged personal expenses to corporate accounts, and used company events as excuses to meet their affairs. It was all documented. Every transaction, every falsified report, every time card that didn't match the security logs. They think they're untouchable, I said, my voice calm but firm. My CFO, a sharp-eyed man named Callum, leaned forward. What's the move? I smirked. We let them hang themselves first. I instructed HR to schedule an unannounced audit for Jessica's department. Every expense would be scrutinized. Every discrepancy would be noted. They wouldn't see it coming. Meanwhile, I made arrangements for something more personal. I hired a private investigator, someone discreet but thorough. If Jessica thought she could cheat in peace, she was about to learn otherwise. Days passed, and I watched as my trap tightened around her. At work, whispers grew louder. Employees noticed the sudden scrutiny on Jessica's team. The usual arrogance she carried began to waver. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Jessica arrived home in a foul mood, her heels clicking aggressively against the hardwood floor. She tossed her purse onto the couch, rubbing her temples. I swear, some people don't know how to mind their own damn business. I sipped my whiskey. Rough day. She glared at me. The company's been on some power trip lately, checking every little thing we do. It's ridiculous. I raised a brow. Sounds serious. Jessica scoffed. It's nothing. Just corporate bullshit. I hummed, amused by her obliviousness. She still believed she was safe. She had no idea that tomorrow, everything would come crashing down. The next morning, Jessica strutted out the door like she always did, heels clicking against the pavement, head held high. She still thought she ran the show. She had no idea that today would be the last time she walked into that office with power. I arrived at the company an hour before her, slipping into the boardroom where my most trusted executives were waiting. The air was thick with anticipation. Callum sat with a stack of documents before him, each one a carefully compiled record of Jessica's misconduct. Next to him, the head of HR, a no-nonsense woman named Evelyn, tapped her pen against the table, waiting for the green light to proceed. "Everything's in place," Callum said, sliding a folder toward me. "It's airtight. Falsified reports, unauthorized expenses, inappropriate use of company resources. It's enough to fire her and her little circle of friends on the spot." I flipped through the pages, scanning the signatures, the undeniable proof. Jessica had buried herself deep, too arrogant to cover her tracks. It was almost too easy. Evelyn crossed her arms. "Do you want to handle this personally, or should HR?" I leaned back, considering. There was a certain satisfaction in the idea of watching Jessica's world implode with my own words. "Let's do this in stages," I said. "Let her feel the walls closing in before we deliver the final blow." Callum smirked. "Cruel. I like it." By the time Jessica arrived, the atmosphere in the office had shifted. Whispers followed her through the hallways. Employees who once fawned over her now avoided eye contact. A few glanced her way with barely concealed amusement, as if they knew something she didn't. Jessica, ever oblivious, brushed it off. She walked into her office, only to find Evelyn waiting for her. I watched through the glass wall as Jessica's expression morphed from annoyance to confusion, then to barely controlled panic. Evelyn handed her a folder, evidence of her fraudulent expenses. Jessica's lips moved quickly, forming protests I couldn't hear, but Evelyn remained unmoved, her posture rigid with authority. Minutes later, Jessica stormed out, face flushed with anger. She hadn't been fired yet, that part came later, but the investigation was now official. She wouldn't be able to weasel her way out of this. By lunchtime, her friends, Melissa, Sophie, and Claire, were also pulled into separate meetings. Their empire was crumbling, and they knew it. I waited until the afternoon before making my move. Jessica was in her office, frantically typing on her phone, likely messaging her friends in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. I stepped inside without knocking. She looked up, startled. "What the hell are you doing here?" I shut the door behind me, taking my time before responding. "Checking in on you," she scoffed. "As if you care." I tilted my head. "I do, actually. This company means a lot to me." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You don't even work here." I smirked. "Is that what you think?" Something flickered in her expression. Hesitation, uncertainty. "What are you talking about?" I leaned against the desk, letting the silence stretch just long enough for the tension to build. Then, I said the words that shattered her world. "I own this company." Jessica froze. Her grip tightened around her phone. "No, you don't." I pulled out the official documentation, the proof of ownership, and placed it on her desk. "I founded this company. Built it from the ground up. I stepped back years ago, but I never left. Every decision, every hire, every firing, it all goes through me." Her breath hitched. "That's not true." I chuckled. "Go ahead. Check the records. I've let you believe I was jobless because I wanted to see what kind of person you'd become when you thought you had all the power." I pushed off the desk, straightening. "Now I know." Jessica's face paled. "You." I didn't let her finish. "You're fired, Jessica. Effective immediately. And your friends, gone too." She shot up from her chair, knocking over a stack of papers. "You can't do this." I met her desperate gaze with calm indifference. "I already did." Her chest rose and fell rapidly. For the first time, she was truly speechless. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Oh, and one more thing." I glanced over my shoulder. "I know about Andrew." Jessica's eyes widened, her lips parting, but no sound came out. I smirked. "Pack your things. Security will escort you out." Then I walked away, leaving her world in ruins. Jessica sat frozen in her chair, the weight of my words crushing down on her. The arrogance, the mockery, the constant belittling, it had all led to this. She had spent months laughing at me, parading around like she was the queen of this empire, never realizing she had been dancing on a stage I built, under lights I controlled. Now, the curtains had fallen. Outside her office, whispers turned into full-blown gossip. Employees who once feared Jessica and her clique now watched with barely contained amusement as security entered the room. Melissa, Sophie, and Claire were already being escorted out, their protests ignored as HR handed them termination notices. Jessica shot up from her chair, fury twisting her features. "You think you can just ruin my life like this?" she hissed, marching toward me. I met her glare with quiet amusement. "Ruin your life?" I echoed. "You did that all on your own." Her hands trembled as she grabbed her phone. "I'll sue. You'll what?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Go ahead. Call a lawyer. I have enough evidence of your fraudulent activities to bury you in legal battles for years. You stole from this company, Jessica. Embezzlement. Falsified reports. The moment you step out of this building, you'll be nothing but a cautionary tale." Her face drained of color. "I gave you everything," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "And you?" I let out a cold laugh. "You gave me everything. That's rich." I took another step forward, making sure she saw the complete lack of emotion in my eyes. "I loved you, Jessica. I would have done anything for you. But instead of standing beside me, you chose to spit on me, mock me, cheat on me." I leaned in, my voice like ice. "And now, you have nothing." The moment security approached, Jessica snapped. "Don't touch me!" she shrieked, yanking her arm away from the guard. "I'm leaving on my own." I watched her storm toward the exit, her heels clicking violently against the tile. The moment she stepped into the lobby, every employee turned to watch. Silence. Then, quiet murmurs. No one helped her. No one stopped her. She was nothing now. As she reached the front doors, I called out one last time. "Oh, Jessica." She froze, her back stiff. "Andrew just got fired too," I said smoothly. "Turns out, dating a married executive while using company funds for your little getaways is a violation of his contract." Jessica spun around, eyes wild. "You?" I smirked. "He's going to love being unemployed." Her lips trembled. She had no more words, no more power. With one last glare, she turned and walked out. I exhaled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The storm had passed. As I turned back toward the office, Evelyn approached with a smirk. "That was brutal." I shrugged. "She earned it." Callum clapped a hand on my shoulder. "So, what now?" I smiled, truly smiling for the first time in months. "Now." I glanced toward my office, where my future awaited. "Now I rebuild." Jessica was gone, and I was finally free.